Welcome to Retro Vapes with me, Basilray from vapetv.com. So the other night on my show, we took a trip down memory lane. I'm closing in on 2 years cigarette-free. It's coming up here in mid-April. And that was courtesy of essentially one device that got me started, and I wanted to take a look back at it. It was the 51 Trio, the Smoke51 Trio, smoking everywhere 3-piece unit. And this is the kind of thing that got a lot of us started. At one point, we kind of thought that this was the best thing out there until we found better, and by all accounts, there are many better things. We probably overpaid for these, but I wanted to take a look back. So that's what this Retro Vapes series is going to be, is looks back at things that aren't new anymore. So we're going to start today with the Smoke51 Trio. So it is 3-piece. It has a cartridge, an atomizer, and a battery. Now this is an automatic battery. It is one of probably, I guess, the better automatic batteries of yesteryear, in that it is not going to be sound activated. So when you wave this thing around, it's not going to go off. I don't think it went off. I mean, I can flick it. I can blow at it, and in general day-to-day use, it's not going to go off. So works well in that respect. It is powered by drawing air through it, so there's a small microphone sensor here, essentially, that detects that air movement, and that's what's going to activate it. Boy, look at that vapor. So this is the device that got me off of cigarettes, only for a couple of days before I realized that this was going to work for me, but there had to be something better. At the time, I was still very attracted to the cigarette-style form factor, so I went out and picked up a 510 kit from Mad Vapes and moved immediately to a Mega 510 battery, 510 atomizer, and even still for a short period of time was still using cartridges. So what did I pay for this? For one battery, this exact atomizer, about 2 dozen cartridges, and 30 mils of juice, I paid about $135. Came in a very fancy gift box, which I still have. Like I said, this is very nostalgic for me. There's a full color user manual, which is actually in reasonable English. I've got several cartridges still sitting around. The charger. Oh, you know what? And they did throw in kind of a stupid little carrying case. So I have all this sitting around still, and every once in a while I like to pull this out and remember that this is what got me to quit cigarettes. So we'll take one more puff here, and then we'll talk about it a little bit, and I'll show you the old cartridge system if you've never seen one of those before. So here it is, the old Smoke51 Trio. Again, this is a 3-piece unit. So you have a cartridge, then you have an atomizer. I used to think this was an RN, 4081 style. I'm not so sure that's what it actually is. So whatever it was, the performance was, as we've seen, not great. So again, it is an automatic battery, so this connection here is not sealed. You always had to be careful about potentially getting too much juice into the atomizer. Which, you can see this is so old and so nostalgic that I've never even bothered to debridge and de-wick. So there is a cutoff on this. The battery will start to flash repeatedly after, I think it's about 7 seconds of draw. So 7 seconds of firing the atomizer. Now this is the kind of unit where you did get the best results from giving it a primer puff. Something you won't see me do because I can't get into the primer puffing anymore. But this cartridge, let me set this off to the side here, essentially holds a small little cup, and it rolled away from me on my desk. Here it is. So here's this small little cup that sits in the bottom of the cartridge. So this would sit down in here, and it holds a little stupid piece of polyfill. So here's a piece of polyfill from one of these cartridges. It's probably well used. It's been cleaned up though. So let's go ahead and we're going to stuff this back into the cartridge. At this point in vaping, people were finding all sorts of other ways to keep using cartridges. Cartomizers were not the most popular thing out at the time. Cartomizers didn't generally exist, especially the way we think of them now, when these were really popular. So people would use blue foam. People I've seen use straws to hold more liquid with better polyfill. all sorts of things, but most people settle in at dripping, feeding, or now cartomizer use. So I'm going to take some juice here. This happens to just be a bottle of Pink Spot that I've got sitting around. It's raspberry lemonade, and we're going to fill this. So essentially we're going to drip onto this polyfill. So here's a drop. I'm going to kind of let this soak in. We've got to be a little careful. We don't want to be too messy. You can see I've kind of got this sticking out a little bit more than normal. So part of this function right here is for this polyfill to actually stick out of the cup. So this atomizer, and this is the way atomizers still are, unless you're buying excuse me, exclusively bridgeless atomizers. The bridge here is really designed to keep the polyfill off of the coil, and there's a small piece of wick in here, kind of see it at the top there, that is designed to make contact with the filler to transfer liquid from the polyfill to the heating coil. Now we know, whoops, and you can see I'm going to probably end up making a mess, but we know that doesn't always work well, which is why people moved to dripping, or at one point even dipping, so they would take an atomizer and actually dip it into like a contact case or something of that effect. Now you can see here, this is getting pretty good and saturated to the point where it's running over, and it was what, right around 10 drops of juice. So 10 drops of juice is still not going to last us very long. Let me just kind of wipe this off a little bit here. So we can see that we've got this filled. So what we would do at this point, maybe try and get one more drop in there. Maybe one more for good measure. So maybe when it's cleaned and dried, you could get a dozen drops. I mean, that's right around kind of the limits of a conventional cartridge. So this is going to slide down in here and slide on. So you can faintly see with the camera, the cartridge is going to sit down in the bottom here. Something you would have to do to get these out would actually be take something like a syringe or a needle, maybe a bent up paper clip, and push it out. So you can see even just sticking that in, at this point things are starting to get messy. You can see I've got some liquid residue on my fingers, and the filler is already pushed into the cartridge. So we'll stick it on here. At this point it would be ready to go. And think about it, guys, not that long ago, this was literally about as good as it ever got. Did this end up doing the trick and getting me off of cigarettes? Yes, I've got juice all over it, but this wouldn't have kept me off. I would have gone back to cigarettes, especially at the pricing of this. You know, at that mall kiosk where I picked this up, this whole setup, one battery, one atomizer, 30 mils of juice, about a dozen cartridges, and that stupid little plastic carrying case that didn't charge batteries, wasn't a PCC. It cost me about $135. Would I pay that again to start on this adventure into buying things like Pro Varies, got a V1, V2, GGTS, Lava Tube, Rios, Tech Mods, all the things that I've had over the last 2 years? Absolutely. In fact, I always said to myself that if I ever met the guy that owned that kiosk, I would probably demand my money back. I actually met him a couple of weeks ago at Minnesota Vape Meet, and I had nothing but nice things to say to the guy. Because in the end, the overpayment that I did for this was much, much greater in actual outcome and effect, in that I've not smoked a cigarette, haven't touched a cigarette, and can't stand the smell of a cigarette now for about the last 2 years. So, overpriced, yes. Performance, awful. But this will always have a soft spot in my heart, and I will probably keep this around until this atomizer dies, and then throw the thing away. Just because every once in a while I like to pull it out. About once every year in the springtime, play with it, and I clean out the atomizer, and I put it away. Thanks so much for catching the first episode of Retro Vapes. There will be more Retro Vapes to come. There's going to be some new reviews coming out soon. As always, Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern on Vape TV Live. Twitter.com/Basilray. Facebook.com/Basilray. Basil phone, 612-293-6405. Get a hold of me. Would love to hear if you've had any similar experiences with something like the 51 Trio. Maybe the Blue is another one that if I can steal my roommates, we'll take a look back at that as well. It's part of our Retro Vapes lineup. But most importantly, I say it every time, please, by all means, take care. This isn't going to do it. This will do it, though.